Good afternoon, everyone. Have you ever wondered what happens when the entire internet's backbone goes out? A couple weeks ago, AWS went down. Shortly after, Azure went down, causing a lot of issues. If you ever wondered what's happening or if your business software has been glitching, could have been the reason why. Today, I wanted to take a little bit of time just to explain briefly in simple terms what happened between them and then some steps that you can take to mitigate the risk associated with a failure like this. So, to start things off, AWS or Amazon Web Services is a comprehensive cloud computing platform that provides on demand IT resources like computing power, storage, and databases over the internet. It is just ran and hosted at data centers ran by Amazon. And Azure is essentially the same thing or very similar to it, but it's Microsoft's version of it. Both run huge websites, for instance, Snapchat, PayPal, Venmo are some of the larger ones off the top of my head, as well as some other applications that you might use for your business purposes. Banks, airlines, very large, very important websites run off of these softwares. So there's a good chance that you are knowingly or unknowingly using them. So the first outage that we had was the AWS outage. Amazon explained this saying that customers weren't able to connect to what it calls its Dynamo database. It's a database system where AWS customers store data. They were unable to connect due to a latent defect in the server's automated DNS or domain name system management system. So essentially, what that means is that the system that maintains records of the domain name system, which the domain name system is, it takes the URL that you put in and translates it to an IP address so the systems know who they're talking to. You can look at it in simple terms. If you are someone who speaks English and you are speaking to someone who speaks Arabic, you might not understand each other. That's essentially what happened with this system. Two different languages were trying to talk and they couldn't understand each other and they didn't know how to translate it. So as you can imagine, that would cause some issues. But usually the course of action is whenever these happen, the systems get taken offline, services get reduced down so they can fix the issue without it becoming worse. So that outage lasted about a full day. Then our next outage that we had very shortly afterwards was an outage with Azure. Now, this one happened due to what they are calling, and this is a direct quote from Microsoft's update response, an inadvertent tenant configuration change within the Azure front door, or AFD, triggered a widespread service disruption affecting both Microsoft services and customer applications dependent on AFD for global content delivery. So, in more simpler terms, there was the control area, there was a faulty configuration of the Azure service that was implemented that disrupted the routing logic. So, again, if we look at how our language translation, it knew the translation, but it didn't know how to apply it. So that would be like if you were somebody who maybe you're like me and you took a few Spanish classes throughout your schooling. If you tell somebody you understand Spanish, but you really don't, same idea as what happened here. They thought that it knew what was happening, but it didn't know how to route it. With this one too, lasted for multiple hours, resulted in multiple systems being down, multiple funds being lost. All right. So as you can see, similar but yet different things cause these to go down. At the root of it, no matter what the outage is, these outages lasted multiple times. This isn't the first time this has happened. This certainly won't be the last time. And the fact that these systems control a vast swath of the internet, I've seen some figures that AWS handles over 30% of the web's traffic. Again, means that your business probably has something on there. So if your business was affected by either one of these outages, drop a comment below. Let us know what systems were affected. Let us know how you handled it. Some steps that you can take to reduce the risk of having these systems take you down, because downtime, lost revenue. We don't want that to happen. Probably one of the easiest things to do is to not rely on one system or one hosting provider for everything, right? You might not know who is doing the cloud hosting for your system, but let's say one of our partners, Sin7, runs on Azure, right? It could be a good idea to maybe have a backup of your inventory figures, maybe a backup of order reports, or just a place where you can access critical data saved offline somewhere, maybe in spreadsheets, being in daily reports that are generated, right? Could be a great place to do that. And that brings us to our next one. If you can back up your systems, backup, backup, backup. Cannot stress that enough. Make sure that your backups are not hosted on the same server or the same cloud computing provider where your system is stored and being operated from. If you aren't sure what system is hosting your software, ask, reach out, Google, reach out to us at Certum. We can help you figure out who is hosting it and get you some more information on plans and things you can do to help mitigate these risks. Moving down the list, a couple of last suggestions I had: have places where your data is stored offline, right? So these days, we're in a network where everything is heavily networked. Here at Certum, we work remotely. Most of our stuff, almost everything we have is online. But still, if there's something critically important to your business that you need, store it offline. Again, goes back to storing some sales data, storing some inventory data offline, right? That could just be in a spreadsheet stored on a local drive from maybe a warehouse manager. That way, they at minimum they at least can have and see figures from the last known point. And this is always a good idea to have because if the system goes down, right, maybe they have to roll it back to a point in time where you have to go and redo data and re-input numbers. So you want to have it back to a last known state, and having that offline can be helpful. Something where, depending on your need, you can back up every day, every week, but you want to definitely have something there. Probably the most important one is have a plan. Have a plan in place for how you can stay operational during these long-term outages, right? As they say, always expect the worst, but prepare for the best. You never want to sit there with your hands behind your back going, I have no idea how I'm going to handle this, because that means your business is going to be down possibly for a lot longer. You want to have a plan in place for how your company can stay operational without reliance on these systems if need be. Right? At the end of the day, these systems are great. And if you have any more questions about this outage, please feel free to reach out to us here at Certum Solutions. Drop us a like, subscribe to our page. And if you'd like more, click on the link below and you can schedule a time to meet with us. This has been Sam with Certum Solutions, and I hope everyone has a great day.